Before Salem, the shadows of Europe were already stirred by the witch hunt's fever. The tales you know barely scratch the surface. Now when we think of witch trials, the Salem witch trials of the late 17th century often come to mind. This was a time of mass hysteria in colonial Massachusetts where 20 people were executed for allegedly practicing witchcraft. But what if I told you that the Salem witch trials were a mere ripple in the vast ocean of witch hunts that swept across Europe centuries before? From the late 15th to the mid-18th century, a wave of fear and superstition blanketed Europe, resulting in what we now know as the European witch trials. Tens of thousands, possibly even hundreds of thousands were accused, tortured, and executed, their stories lost in the annals of history. Imagine the quaint villages and bustling cities of medieval Europe, transformed into arenas of fear and paranoia, where neighbors spied on neighbors, and even the slightest sign of deviance could lead to deadly accusations of witchcraft. These were times when a simple birthmark, a love for cats, or a talent for herbal remedies could mark you as a witch and a suspect of diabolical conspiracy. Now let's take a step back in time to the cobblestone streets of England, the icy villages of Sweden, and the imposing castles of Germany. These locations were the stages for some of the most chilling witch trials in history, far beyond the well-known trials in Salem. In England we find the tragic story of the Pendle witches, a saga of family betrayal and fear. In Sweden, we uncover the Torsaker witch trials, the largest witch trial in Swedish history. And in Germany we delve into the Würzburg witch trial, a grim chapter of mass hysteria and paranoia. These stories are often overshadowed by the infamous Salem witch trials, but they're equally, if not more, significant. They offer a profound insight into the social and cultural factors that fueled the witch trials, from religious fervor and political unrest to economic hardship and societal change. Join us as we delve into the lesser-known chapters of European witch trials. Let's uncover the unseen narratives, the stories that history often forgets but we must remember. The witch trials of Europe are a testament to the power of fear, the danger of ignorance, and the heartbreaking cost of injustice. In 1675, Sweden witnessed its deadliest day in witch hunting history, the Torsaker witch trials. This event, nestled in the heart of the 17th century, unfolded in the small parish of Torsaker, a quiet corner of Sweden's vast landscape. The year prior had seen the country gripped by widespread fear and suspicion, a chilling prelude to what would become the largest witch execution in a single day in Swedish history. The man at the helm of this tragic episode was none other than the local clergyman, Laurentius Christophori Horneus. Tasked by the higher authorities to investigate whispers of witchcraft, Horneus found himself thrust into a role that would forever darken his legacy. His investigations began innocently enough with the questioning of children, but these harmless inquiries soon spiraled into something far more sinister. The children, under the intense scrutiny of the clergyman and the mounting pressure from the community, began to spin tales of nighttime journeys to a place called Blockula. They spoke of meetings with the devil, of witches and their malevolent acts. The community's fear was palpable, a living entity that fed off these stories, growing larger and more menacing with each passing day. The tales spun by the children served as kindling, igniting the already volatile atmosphere. The witch hunt had begun. On the fateful day of March 23, 1675, the trials reached their tragic climax. 71 people, mostly women, were sentenced to death. They were marched to the gallows, their lives extinguished in the blink of an eye. The Torsaker witch trials were a chilling testament to the power of fear and the destructive potential of mass hysteria. They exposed the fragility of societal structures, the ease with which suspicion can shatter communities, and the devastating consequences of unchecked fear. The Torsaker witch trials saw 71 people executed in a single day, marking a dark chapter in Swedish history. Over in England, the Pendle Hill witch trials in 1612 turned a family's fortune into unimaginable despair. In the small, isolated community of Pendle, nestled under the brooding shadow of Pendle Hill, a family's fate was sealed by accusations of witchcraft. The family in question was the Devices. At the helm, the matriarch, Elizabeth Southerns, known as Old Demdike, was already notorious for her supposed dealings with the devil. Her daughter, Elizabeth Device, and her grandchildren, James and Alazan, would also be swept up in this maelstrom of suspicion and fear. The story takes a turn for the tragic when Alazan Device, in a moment of anger, cursed a peddler who refused to sell her pins. When he later suffered a stroke, the locals were quick to connect the dots. Alazan's confession, wrung out under duress, would be the spark that ignited the Pendle witch trials. The social and cultural factors of the time played a significant role in this grim saga. England was under the rule of James I, a monarch with a deep-seated fear of witchcraft. His paranoia trickled down to his subjects, turning neighbor against neighbor in a climate of fear and superstition. Moreover, the isolated, impoverished conditions of Pendle made it a fertile ground for suspicion and rumor to take root. The trial was swift. Roger Nowell, a local magistrate hungry for recognition, was eager to please his king. He arrested and interrogated the Device family along with several others in the community. The evidence was flimsy, largely based on confessions obtained under duress and the supposed spectral evidence of the witch's spirits harming others. In August of 1612, 10 of the accused, including the entire Device family, were hanged at Gallows Hill in Lancaster. Their crime? The practice of witchcraft, a charge born out of fear, misunderstanding, and the manipulation of power. The Pendle witch trials remain one of England's most notorious cases of witch hunting, born out of fear and superstition. In the shadow of Pendle Hill, a family's downfall serves as a chilling reminder of a time when fear overruled reason, and innocence was no guard against the storm of a witch hunt. Meanwhile, Germany was grappling with its own hysteria, the Würzburg witch trial of 1629. In the heart of the Holy Roman Empire, the city of Würzburg was seized by a panic that would consume its people for the next 2 years. The trial began with the arrest of a woman named Gobel Babelin, who was accused of witchcraft. Under duress and torture, she confessed and implicated others, setting off a chain reaction that would claim the lives of an estimated 600 individuals. Amongst the accused were men, women, and children from all walks of life. Notable figures included the city's mayor, Johannes Junius, who left behind a heart-wrenching letter to his daughter, detailing his torture and false confession. Then there was the tragic case of Philip Adolf, the young prince bishop, who was convinced he'd been bewitched and instigated many of the trials. These trials were fueled by a complex cocktail of social, religious, and political factors. The city was still reeling from the devastating effects of the 30 Years' War. The fear of the unknown, the dread of the supernatural, and the desperate need for scapegoats led to an atmosphere ripe for a witch hunt. The role of religion was undeniable. The city was a stronghold of Catholicism, and the witch trials were often seen as a way to reaffirm its dominance during a time of Protestant resistance. The trials were presided over by clergy who used their authority to stoke the flames of fear and suspicion. And then there were the cultural factors. The belief in witches and witchcraft was deeply rooted in the folklore and superstitions of the time. Accusations often sprang from personal conflicts, envy, or revenge, and the trials provided a convenient outlet for these tensions. The Würzburg witch trial stands as a grim reminder of how paranoia and fear can wreak havoc on a society. The echoes of this dark chapter resonate even today, reminding us of the dangers of mass hysteria and the importance of due process and rational thought. These trials, steeped in fear and superstition, cast long shadows over Europe. They were not isolated incidents, nor were they confined to the distant past. They were, in fact, a reflection of a society grappling with change, fear, and the unknown. The Torsaker witch trials in Sweden, one of the largest witch trials in history, resulted in the execution of 71 people in a single day. This massacre was not an act of justice but rather a manifestation of mass hysteria fueled by fear and ignorance. Across the North Sea, the Pendle witch trials in England brought down an entire family. The Device family, already marginalized due to their poverty and reputation, became scapegoats in a society that was all too willing to blame its problems on the supernatural. A chilling reminder of how quickly suspicion can turn into tragedy when stoked by fear. In the heart of Europe, the Würzburg witch trial in Germany saw the city consumed by paranoia. Hundreds were accused, with children as young as 7 amongst the victims. This episode stands as a stark testament to the destructive power of fear and the ease with which it can corrupt a community. These stories, while harrowing, are not without their lessons. They serve as stark reminders of the dangers of unchecked fear, of the perils of scapegoating, and of the catastrophic consequences when justice is distorted by hysteria. They teach us the importance of skepticism, of questioning the status quo, and of standing against the tide of collective paranoia. As we reflect on these events, we remember the victims of these trials and consider how these episodes have shaped our understanding of justice and morality. We must not forget the lessons from the shadows, for they hold the power to enlighten our path forward, reminding us of the depths to which humanity can sink. and inspiring us to strive for a world marked by empathy, understanding, and justice.